Humanity has always searched the dark for answers, but no one prepared us for what it means when the answer arrives first. In the present day, when mankind had grown used to hearing only itself reflected back through machines, Dr. Lena Voss received a reply from something that should not have known she was there. It came through the Helios array at 2:13 in the morning, not as a voice, not as a code, as a shape. Lena was 41, a radio astronomer, disciplined, skeptical, and old enough in her profession to distrust wonder on first sight. For 12 years, she had spent her nights sorting noise from pattern, vanity from evidence, hope from mathematics. She did not believe the universe owed mankind an answer merely because mankind had asked for one loudly enough. Yet on that night, a burst appeared in the data unlike anything Helios had ever recorded. It repeated every 21 seconds. Its internal ratios held with impossible precision. And whenever Lena converted the signal into visual structure, the same thing emerged. A rotating architecture of luminous folds, changing in ways no natural source should have known how to change. At first, the shape seemed merely alien. By dawn, it had become personal. When Lena looked at it alone, one cluster of light unfurled into the exact branching fracture pattern left in her skull by a car accident 10 years earlier. Not approximately, not symbolically, exactly. She shut the screen at once, reopened it, and found only the spinning geometry once more. She told no one. That was her first mistake. By noon, 3 other observatories had confirmed the signal. Governments requested silence. Directors requested caution. Journalists somehow learned just enough to begin ruining the truth before it arrived. By evening, the array was full of officials pretending not to be afraid. Lena kept working with Noah Pell, her youngest systems analyst, a gifted engineer whose first instinct before the impossible was not worship, but curiosity sharpened by bad sleep. They tested the signal with primes, pulse trains, and magnetic sweeps. The shape responded, not randomly, specifically. Under prime sequences, one armature elongated. Under visual pattern grids, interior chambers opened and sealed themselves again. Under blank observation, it stabilized as though waiting. Then Noah looked at it alone. He went pale. When Lena asked what he had seen, he said, after too long a pause, that for a second the shape had contained the inside of his childhood bedroom, exactly as it had looked the morning his brother went missing in 1998. He laughed afterward and called it stress. That night, he did not go home. The next morning, the first physical incident occurred. On the observation glass of Lab 3, where no one had touched the pane from inside, a sentence appeared in condensation. Ask it what it took. No one admitted writing it. The cameras in the lab had failed for exactly 11 seconds. By then, the whole station had changed its manner. Voices lowered. Doors were closed gently. Even the men from the ministry stopped using words like anomaly and event without quite meaning to, speaking of the signal as though it were already in the building. Lena still tried to remain scientific. She ran all known contamination tests. She checked for image implantation, audio bleed, psychogenic suggestion. The signal survived every reduction. Worse still, it began altering itself according to the observer. To the chaplain brought in by one administrator, the shape briefly resembled concentric halos. To a biologist, it folded into dividing cells. To Lena, it never resembled objects. It resembled knowledge she had avoided. On the third night, Noah disappeared from the data room. He was not gone long. 4 minutes, according to the clocks. He was found standing in the service corridor outside, staring at the wall where someone had written in his own handwriting, "It doesn't speak in words. It removes the wrong shape." Noah had no memory of writing it. After that, he refused to look at the signal again. Lena should have stopped then. Instead, she did what all frightened intelligence eventually does when faced with a mystery it can neither master nor ignore. She decided the answer would become safer if she reached it first. That evening, she entered the visualization chamber alone and opened a direct interpretive channel. The shape bloomed wider than ever before. Its folds spread outward, then inward, then through each other, like something not rotating in space, but undoing it. Lena saw no ships, no symbols, no stars. She saw scenes. A woman in a hospital bed, a hand not held in time, a telephone ringing unanswered in a kitchen 12 years old. The chamber lights went out. In the black glass of the monitor, the shape remained visible. Not on the screen, in the reflection behind her. She turned. Nothing stood there. Then, through the dead speaker, a voice said her name in her mother's voice, not tenderly, not accusingly, but with the exact inflection used once, years ago, when her mother had asked whether Lena intended to be right all her life, or merely alone. The power came back at once, every system reset. No recording of the voice existed. By morning, 3 more staff had requested removal from the array. One had carved a spiral into his own desk. Another sat catatonic before a blank screen. Noah handed Lena a printout taken from the raw signal buffer just before dawn. It contained no astronomical data at all, only an image. A photograph from Lena's private apartment taken years earlier and never digitized. Her mother, standing at the window in a blue coat, half turned away, as though listening to someone in the next room. On the back of the print, in no known print process, were words. "We answer by showing what remains unlearned." That was when Lena understood the first true thing about the contact. It was not trying to communicate information. It was trying to communicate fit. It responded to intelligence by finding the shape of its refusal. Whatever this alien form was, it did not ask what humanity knew. It asked what humanity had made itself unable to bear knowing. The ministry wanted a public demonstration that afternoon. The signal had become too large to hide. Lena was ordered to stand before cameras, open the feed, and confirm that mankind had made contact. She agreed. There are moments when obedience is only strategy wearing a calmer face. At 5 p.m., before officials, cameras, and half the terrified world, Lena opened the channel. The shape appeared. Perfect. Vast. Turning. She was asked whether this was the first proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. Lena said no. Then she pointed to the main display and asked every person in the room to keep looking. At first, nothing happened. Then the shape began changing. One minister saw his dead son. A reporter began screaming at a blank patch of light. The chaplain fell to his knees. Noah covered his eyes too late. The room dissolved into panic, because now the second truth had arrived. The signal was not from a distant civilization reaching toward mankind in peace, war, or curiosity. It was a filter, an intelligence so unlike human language that the only possible bridge between species was revelation. It entered perception and removed whatever false arrangement allowed the observer to remain inwardly intact. In simpler and more terrible terms, it did not show beings from another world. It showed the hidden wound by which this world misunderstood itself. Lena looked at the shape one last time. This time she saw not her mother, nor the hospital, nor the failed arrival. She saw Earth itself from impossible distance, lit softly in blackness, and around it, not ships, not gods, not watchers, but countless versions of the same folding structure, all turned toward the planet with the patience of minds that had answered many young civilizations before. The horror was not invasion. The horror was curriculum. She cut the feed. Too late. Within hours, recordings were everywhere, though no two recordings matched. Public reaction split as frightened species always split. Religion, hysteria, denial, ecstasy, markets, street preachers, governments calling for calm in voices already broken by private knowledge. Helios Array was sealed. The official statement called it a mass perceptual interference event. Noah resigned. 3 ministers disappeared from public life, and Lena, who had spent her adulthood listening outward for proof that mankind was not alone, learned at last what the signal had truly come to teach. That alien intelligence would not necessarily bring mankind better tools, higher wisdom, or the comfort of cosmic companionship. It might instead bring the one thing human beings avoid more fiercely than extinction, an encounter that strips away the lie by which they remain bearable to themselves. For the oldest mistake of our species was never believing we were alone in the universe. It was believing that first contact would arrive speaking our language of discovery, conquest, or wonder. But when the answer finally came, it did not cross the dark to tell mankind what was out there. It came to show mankind what it had hidden in here. And in that first unbearable act of understanding, the stars opened not into comfort, but to show the truth hidden inside. So be careful what truth you seek for, because sometimes you may find yourself discovering it inside the light beyond shadow.